San Francisco. The basketball wealth over the weekend was spread between two cities and bridged by Stephen Curry, which means it played out as hoped. NBA All-Star 2025 belonged to the San Francisco Bay Area, and it was well represented by San Francisco and Oakland as the most important player in the history of those two cities was voted Kia MVP of the All-Star Game. Curry was obviously the headliner as the weekend approached, and when LeBron James was a late scratch Sunday because of injury, Curry had to come through, which he did. As for the weekend as a whole, these 5 takeaways try to explain it all. Weekend remains a work in progress. With the work ethic of a Hollywood cosmetics surgeon, the league has nipped and tucked the weekend and especially the All-Star Game itself over the past several years, searching for ways to make it more entertaining and competitive and, well, better looking. 2 things were apparent this weekend. The work continues, and the improvement, however marginal, was evident. With 4 teams competing in tournament-style elimination for the first time, there was a sense of urgency in Sunday's semifinals and finals, especially considering that with a first-to-40 wins rule in place, defense was necessary. Therefore, the competition, yes, better than previous years. That was the goal, said Damian Lillard. The league tried to strike the right balance between the game and entertainment, filling the breaks, sometimes long, mainly with comedian Kevin Hart wisecracking. Ambitious for sure. A success? The feedback from fans and viewers will determine that. For those who still aren't sold, there is good news. Chances that the NBA will keep tinkering seem pretty safe, if only because the league is trying to make the weekend as perfect as possible. Dunk revival on tap. Perhaps hard to say which received the better reception. Mac McClung winning his 3rd straight AT&T Slam Dunk Championship, or the reaction from potential competition in the future. Mac might make me decide to dunk, Ja Morant said on social media. If you do it, I'll do it with you. Giannis Antetokounmpo responded with an equally public post. Zach and AG Wassup, Morant added, referring to Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon, whose classic duel in 2016 was the last memorable contest involving 2 truly great dunkers. Obviously, the NBA would be thrilled if Morant, Giannis, and a few others, Wassup, Anthony Edwards, and Zion Williamson, volunteered to make the contest great again. But for whatever reason, the game's most creative dunkers routinely pass on the contest. The suspense for the 2026 field must wait. Until then, the trophy belongs in the hands of a G-Leaguer, who said he's probably done unless the NBA wants him back, meaning show McClung the money. McClung versus LaVine versus Gordon versus Morant versus Giannis versus Zion, or some combination of that, would instantly become a headliner. And iconic. Castle was, and is, the young king. He may or may not win Key Rookie of the Year. Check back in another few months, but Rookie of All-Star Weekend, send the trophy to the engravers and put Stephon Castle's name on it. The Spurs' first-year guard reached the final of the dunk contest and executed a jam that should have dropped 50s across the board, but fell just short. He helped his team advance out of the Castrol Rising Stars to Sunday's All-Star semis. If you went into the weekend wondering who would emerge as a young statement maker, it's hard to argue against Castle. And now, with the home stretch of the season upon us, this leads to another question. How will San Antonio use Castle from here? The situation in San Antonio is tricky. The Spurs added De'Aaron Fox at the trade deadline and also have Chris Paul. It's a good problem to have, but is it time to elevate Castle's minutes and possibly his role as well? Fox is cemented as a starter, but Paul isn't a long-term answer. The Spurs can either wait until next season to give that spot to Castle or do it now. Or maybe Paul sees the future and asks to come off the bench now, probably the least likely scenario. What would give the Spurs their best shot at making the playoffs? Therein lies the answer. Inside the NBA is out. And that's a wrap for the most popular and conversation-stirring NBA show, at least for NBA All-Star Weekend. Ernie Johnson Jr., Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and Shaquille O'Neal conducted their final mid-season classic, which belongs to NBC starting next season. What will we miss? Well, aside from their usual chemistry and observations, both witty and controversial, there are 2 traditions that will be hard and perhaps impossible to replace. Ernie, at the Legends Brunch, he was the designated MC at the Sunday morning event, which draws many of the past greats, and Johnson punctuates the brunch with poems about the game, players, and those who passed over the last calendar year. This time, Johnson signed off with this: "It's TNT's last All-Star game in what is our last season. We've relished every second with this league, and you're the reason." Smith's call on the dunk contests. Smith is on top of his game when discussing in live time the creativity and originality of the dunks, and he usually projects the winner. Smith was on the call in 2000, the last time the Bay Area hosted the All-Star Weekend, when Vince Carter went thermal, mouthed "It's over," and Smith screamed "Let's go home." TNT's iconic quartet received autographed jerseys from the All-Star teams, as well as well-timed parting gifts that work best with a boat on a lake. As comedian Kevin Hart said, "Ain't no more work after this. You gone fishin'. Practice your half-court heaves, boys and girls, because you'll never know when you'll randomly get chosen to shoot against Lillard for the chance to win $100,000. That's the advice. And that's the final take from All-Star Weekend, endorsed by Jaron Barajas, the fan who bathed in green paper Sunday after swishing a shot from the logo in the Mr. Beast challenge and getting smothered by Shaq and Smith.